Yes, and our numbers are growing. More and more people are seeing the lies, the subterfuge, the propaganda, and the gaslighting from the mainstream networks. They're basically lying about issues that they're on the table, and they're ignoring issues that should be on the table. And guess what, folks? When you lose trust, you just don't get it back. So legacy media, mainstream media, the message to you is... You won't be trusted anymore. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Thursday edition of the WTF Reports on this final day of the month of July, the 31st of July, 2025. And as always, we are broadcasting from the most confused, dumbed down, manipulated, and brainwashed nation on the face of the planet. And I'm bringing you news and information that they hope and pray you never hear. I encourage you to think outside of the cage. Now, you've heard think outside of the box, but boxes are usually made out of cardboard or flimsy wood, and it's easy to break out of a box. But a cage is a whole different thing. And thanks to the mainstream media, we now are living in a very severely divided country. And, you know, conservatives love to point the fingers at the liberals and say, look, you've all been consuming the blue Kool-Aid, and you're all brainwashed. Well, I hate to say it, folks, but it goes both ways. There are a lot of conservative networks out there that are pumping out red Kool-Aid, and a lot of folks are consuming that as well. And so I'm very much on the record and well documented for decades of having no love for either party. The Demopublicans and the Republicrats, as they say, they're two wings of the same bird. Now, what bird is this? Let's think about that. Let's just say that we are living in a different country now. We should now rename this country the United States of Israel. Israel is running this country, whether you want to admit it or not. As far as I know, there are only two members of Congress who are not accepting money from AIPAC, and that would be Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, I don't know if there's any other members of Congress that are not accepting money, but those are the ones that are on the front rows right now. And anyway, as always, this broadcast is being brought to you in part by the Wave Watch, and I want to mention that because this is a Rife machine you wear on your wrist. If you haven't checked it out, you're doing yourself a tremendous disservice. Frequency is everything. We know that, and we're learning that more and more every day as scientists are doing more and more research and realizing, yes, that's true. And Royal Raymond Rife was the first one to come up with a machine that could destroy viruses and bacteria and fungus, pathogens and stuff like that with frequencies. He also discovered that frequencies could help certain cells thrive and prosper. You know, skin cells, kidney cells, blood cells, whatever. There are frequencies that will help those cells. So if you want to find out more about the Wave Watch and this Rife machine you wear on your wrist, please visit our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page and check it out. Check it out. Anyway, all right, getting started on today's Thursday edition. I got to tell you, it's kind of depressing. I mean, I remember 35 years ago, remember George Bush Sr. and the Gulf War, Saddam Hussein, you know, the coalition of 19 countries that went in to rescue Kuwait because, Kuwait had been invaded by Saddam Hussein. Well, there are a couple of things that you don't know about that. First off, in Kuwait, there was a company called Zapata Oil. Now, Zapata Oil was slant drilling into the Iraqi oil fields. Now, Zapata Oil, one of the major shareholders was George Herbert Walker Bush, George Bush Sr. Yeah. So the point is that when Kuwait went to the United States and said, hey, you know, we got to do something about this. We got to go after Iraq. When Saddam Hussein, I got it backwards. Saddam Hussein went to April Gillespie, the United States, and said, hey, look at Kuwait is stealing our oil with their slant drilling and stealing it. We got to stop them. Now, April Gillespie told Saddam Hussein that, that's between you and the Kuwaitis. You know, we have nothing to do with that whatsoever. You know, you just have to figure that out on your own. So that's why Saddam went in and attacked Kuwait. And then, as soon as he did that, they threw up their hands and said, oh my gosh, he's an aggressor, and we have to form a coalition and go after Saddam Hussein. It was a setup. And then once we got rocking into that first Gulf War, oh yes, the Pentagon and the military-industrial complex got to test out a whole bunch of new weapons. Not only that, but they were using all kinds of new hokey-pokey thingy-dingies. Yeah, all kinds of new drugs and stuff like that. And not only that, but they were using depleted uranium rounds. Now, depleted uranium has a half-life. It's radioactive. And it has a half-life of 4.5 billion years. It gets into the air and the soil and the water and everything. And after that, most of the births that happened after that were having horrendous deformities. And that's still going on today. I just wanted to throw that out there because the United States, I'm sorry, there are times, when I love this country, I love the principles that it was founded upon, and I love the people who have been standing for those principles. But unfortunately, we've been invaded. We've been taken over by the very forces that are involved in some very evil things. And I wanted to focus in a bit on that because, what's going on right now in Palestine, the people who are left there, who are alive, I mean, unfortunately, they're reaching stage 5 of famine. And at that point, there's no turning back. And I'm ashamed of this country for allowing it to happen. I'm ashamed of the American people for not standing up and doing something about it. Because we're all more concerned with the latest movie coming out on Netflix or our favorite sports team, baseball, basketball, whatever. We're all wrapped up in our own little bubble because we don't want any trouble. And people don't realize, what was that saying? First they came for the gypsies and I wasn't a gypsy, so I said nothing. And then they came for this group and I said nothing. And then they came for that group and I said nothing. And then they came for me. And there was nobody to say anything. Well, that's where we're at, folks. That's exactly where we're at. And I'm not quite sure where to start with today's audio clips. And by the way, this is why I call this the WTF Reports, because I'm here with the facts. If you want to think something else, yeah, it's perfectly appropriate. It's not as if we don't have enough reason to sit back and say, WTF, what the, things are insane. And you know what? It's all being generated. We've got so much conflict going on, so much division going on in this country. And what's that old saying? Divide and conquer. Divided we fall. And all this division is being generated by the media. And it's been going on for a long time. So we got class wars, we got race wars, we got holy wars going on, economic wars going on. The stuff that's going on in Cincinnati, those two white people who were beaten senseless. That woman got absolutely knocked unconscious. Now they're doing a bit of an investigation, but doggone well, they didn't even want to cover that. If it was a couple of black people who had been beat up by white people, it would have been on the television 24/7. Racism and all this. That's the other thing to divide us is racism. As a matter of fact, there was a big stabbing that was going on outside of a Walmart a few days ago, and the guy that stopped it, he was a black man. He was a former Marine who happened to have a firearm. And when this guy was confronted with the Marine, that's what stopped him. But what did NBC do? They focused on some guy that had a shopping cart. They said, he stopped the conflict here by taking a shopping cart and slam it into the guy with the knife. That's not what happened, but that's the way NBC wanted to couch it. My goodness, we couldn't possibly have a black guy breaking it up with a firearm. That would go so far against the narrative. Now, if the guy was white and he had a gun, well, that might have been a different story. But the mainstream media is doing anything and everything that they can to create more division. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, we all know that the liberal Democrats, we all know that they've been, fed a line because they consume intellectual fecal matter from the mainstream networks. And as I've always say, if you consume intellectual fecal matter, you end up with stuff for brains. Well, you know what? A lot of the conservatives are unfortunately consuming that as well. As a matter of fact, there's a woman, her name is Shannon. She calls herself Shannon Joy. And she's pointing out that, maybe we conservatives have been hoodwinked. Maybe Trump is indeed a Trojan horse. Now, I don't like to hear that. I'd like to think that, Trump was doing all the right things. At least he was campaigning for all the right things. But now that he's in office, a lot of conservatives now were saying, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean Larry Ellison from Oracle is going to design vaccines based on our personal DNA? Whoa, wait a second. You're going to sample my DNA and make a vaccine for it? I don't think so. All right. And now he's bringing Peter Thiel from Palantir on to design the greatest and most sophisticated surveillance system on the planet. Whoa, I didn't ask for that. And then, of course, Robert Kennedy, he came out there. He was very much against all these vaccines and tying all these vaccines to ADHD and autism and all these other problems. And then he comes out a couple weeks ago and says his goal in the next 4 years is to make sure everybody has Fitbits on their wrist. Those wristwatches that monitor all of your vital signs and connect with your phone. I mean, that's another surveillance system. Whoa, I didn't ask for that. So I don't know. Maybe we have to consider the idea that maybe what's going on, maybe we conservatives are being fed a line as well. Here's Shannon Joy. Here's what she had to say.
January 23, 2025, Trump signs the executive order removing all AI barriers. July 18, 2025, the Genius Act is signed into law. July 23, AI.gov goes live and AI action plan is released. Have you seen any of this on Steve Bannon's War Room? Have you seen any of this on Glenn Beck's chalkboard? Have you seen any of this on your favorite right-wing news radio or, commentator? Have you seen this on The Blaze? Have you seen this on Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro? Have you seen any type of in-depth analysis from the right? None whatsoever. Exactly what they wanted to happen happened. Their guy got into office. Their guy was a Trojan horse for the technocrats. And now the right-wing media apparatus is looking away as this is happening again. The same thing that they did during the lockdowns of 2020 and the rollout of Operation Warp Speed. It is the exact same playbook. Groundhog Day political hell. Why am I the only one in right-wing news media, the only one in right-wing news media talking about this days after it happened? It is time for you to begin to challenge these people who are leading this nation, their constituents, their audiences off a cliff.
That is, I have to agree with her. And I know a lot of other conservatives out there are starting to take another hard look at what's going on. And then we have to ask the question, who is pulling the strings? Has Trump unfortunately succumbed to one of those three magic words that we talk about all the time on this broadcast?
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Is it possible? Now, there are other folks that are saying, hey, we know that there was a body double for Joe Biden. Is there a body double for Donald Trump? There's a lot of people asking that question, too. Now, I don't know how we're going to pull this out of the fire, folks, but I do know one thing. It's up to the people. It's up to you. It's up to me. And it's up to all the American people to pull the head out of the sand or some other part of their anatomy, and start getting involved. But unfortunately, people just don't want to do that. They don't want to have their bubble burst. And I'm sorry to say that, and I get it. I mean, they say that ignorance is bliss. And yes, it is. Absolutely it is. And sometimes I wish I could go back to being a happy idiot that I was when I was a young adult. All my life I've been a musician, and I did crazy voices for commercials, and I did narrations and stuff. And then I became a talk show host. And oh my goodness, I had no idea what I was getting involved with. I tumbled down the rabbit hole. Whoa, like Alice in Wonderland when she jumped in the rabbit hole and she was just tumbling and tumbling. That's how I felt. I had no idea all this stuff was going on. But I tell you, I got myself an education. And I learned the meaning of a fortune that I read on the back of a Salada tea bag many years ago. And this has stuck with me all my life. It said, and I quote, "Experience is the best teacher because first she gives the test, then she gives the lesson." And that's very true. I had no idea. And like I said, I started tumbling down the rabbit hole 35 years ago. And then in 95, I started doing talk radio. And that's when I met a whole bunch of very interesting people. I got to interview Bill Cooper. Yeah, William Cooper. He wrote the book, Behold a Pale Horse. That opened me up to a whole bunch of avenues. And then I met Ted Gunderson, former, he wasn't head of the FBI, but he was in charge of Houston, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. He had 750 FBI agents under him. And I got to have some very interesting conversations with him. And boy, that opened up my eyes too. As a matter of fact, there was, this whole thing about trafficking, child sacrifice, all this stuff. These are topics that people don't want to talk about. And I heard many years ago that there were some horrible things going on. Believe it or not, for those of you who love your distractions, you love your movies, you love your sports teams, now people are finding out some of the stuff that's been going on behind the scenes in Hollywood, and it's horrible, really bad stuff. But it's not just in Hollywood, folks. I heard some horrible things that were going on in Major League Baseball. And I'm going to play this audio clip here. This is, that's the wrong one. Where did it go? Oh, it skipped on me. Doggone it. I hate when that happens. Wait a second. Where is it? Okay, here it is. All right, hold on to your hats. You're not going to like this. I'm sorry, but I have no choice to play this because I heard about this years ago. And it's got swept under the rug, and now it's resurfacing because people are now starting to pay attention to what's going on with all this sex trafficking and, yes, the satanic worshiping that's going on. Wait till you hear this. This is unbelievable. Here it is.
Do you want to know why so many of us are fighting so hard to tell you guys the truth about the trafficking? Because it's not about people being in tractor trailers, you guys. Trigger warning, and please listen to this. This is going to be as hard for you to hear as it has been for me to read over 800 pages of testimony from different people about what they have gone through.
Okay, I'm going to pause it here. I'm telling you, hold on to your hats, folks. You're not going to like this. But I feel obligated to share it because I heard about this years ago. And now it's resurfacing.
This is about Tommy LaSorta and the LA Dodgers. Tommy LaSorta was a very bad man, and he would arrange for women and children to be available for after-game activities if the Dodgers won. It was supposed to be an incentive that after the game they could come back to the locker room. And as this document says, sometimes the locker room was filled with Dodgers with women and children at the 7th inning to inspire and invigorate the team. But most of the time it was done after a winning game. And here's the problem with this. I know you're going to recognize this name. Steve Garvey. His wife and his daughters were part of that. Please listen. Cindy Garvey was often part of the Dodger lineup of women and children to be chosen by the Dodgers after a winning game. My daughter Kelly was also occasionally used. They usually put Krisha and Whitney, the young daughters of the Garveys, into the lineup. The players who performed the best during the game got to choose first. One night when they put Krisha and Whitney in the lineup, it was Whitney's first night. She was now old enough, in quotes, to participate in spite of the fact that she was only 4 or 5 years old. Cindy started screaming, "No, not Whitty." That was the nickname she called her. Two men stepped forward and grabbed Cindy by the arms and whisked her away. They took her into the next room, and we could all hear her screaming. It was awful. Because the way that they would keep the men and women in control, the parents of these children, they would be traumatized if they ever tried to say anything against what was going on. If they ever said, don't hurt my children, don't do this, whatever, they were horribly tortured. Horribly. So that they would never, ever think of trying to do it again. And LaSorta said, if you step out of line, you will always pay the price, maybe with your life. Then they took Whitney out of the line and into a side room, and we could all hear her screaming and crying. This is why we need to stop this. 800 pages of this, and I'm only on the second of 5 stories. And I am getting through this because I need a way to figure out how to tell you guys so that you know that this is the evil on this planet that they are protecting at all costs. Please join my fight.
This is global, folks, and I've known about this, like I said, for years. But most people don't want to hear it. It's too horrible. And I'm sorry to share that with you. Again, this was posted by Ricardo Bossi from Australia. And he is part of the quote-unquote global resistance, if there is such a thing, and I would hope and think that there would be. I mean, I will not allow myself to think that the entire world is evil like this. There have to be good people, and I know that there are. Back in '96, I don't know if I've shared this story in the past. I haven't done so recently, but in '96, Joyce Riley, and she and I were a couple. And we were fighting for the Gulf War veterans, and we were making some big noises. And at one point, Joyce got a phone call, and with the two of us were, quote-unquote, strongly invited to a meeting in San Antonio. And so we went to this meeting, and we got in there, and the doors closed. There were probably, 65, 70, 75 people in there. I don't remember. Like I said, I'd totally forgotten about this for years until about 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. But anyway, we got into this meeting, and the doors closed, and there were guards at the door. And then a gentleman came up to the podium, and the first thing he says, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know that before we get started, I want you to know that if you're in this room right now, you have been thoroughly vetted. We know exactly who you are, and we know exactly what you're doing. And we're honored to have you here. And I said to myself, wow, that's kind of cool. Anyway, he went on to explain about what was going on ever since, what was it, 1871. What had happened is that the United States had lost its sovereignty. We incorporated and became a business, became the United States of America Incorporated. And the decades that followed, little by little, our rights and the Constitution was just chewed up and basically shredded. We ended up with the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, and we also ended up with the 16th Amendment, which was never properly ratified to create the income tax. And then through the years, more and more things happened. But the point is that when they took out JFK, they said that was the final nail in the coffin of our rights and everything. You have to understand, he said, ladies and gentlemen, that there are forces behind the scenes that have been very patient. They have been very diabolical. They have been very ruthless. But they got it done. They took over this country. And he said, I'm here to tell you that we're going to get our country back. We're the good guys. And it's not going to happen in a week or a month or a year or even a decade. I mean, these monsters that destroyed our country, it took them decades and decades. And like I said, they had to be ruthless, diabolical, and patient. Well, we're going to have to be just as ruthless, just as diabolical, and just as patient. But we are going to get our country back because we are the good guys. We're the white hats. White hats. White hats. I didn't think about that. Anyway, so that was back in '96. And as time went on here, that's when, of course, Joyce and I were traveling around the country helping Gulf War vets. And then we started the Power Hour radio show on the GCN network. And I was with them with her for about 10 years. And during that time, we produced 4 documentary films, Power Hour Productions. I had all this music that came out. And then after learning a whole bunch of stuff, like I just said, I befriended Ted Gunderson, and he and I spent many hours talking about this horrendous growth of satanic cults that were popping up all over the country, involved in horrendous rituals involving children. And yeah, I know people don't want to think about that, but this is real. And if you don't believe it, you think it's a conspiracy theory, raise your hand and slap yourself real hard. Because that's how they get away with it. Because people don't want to believe it, so they don't do anything about it. But this is why now it's in your face. It's in Hollywood. It's on television. It's in, the music industry. It's in your face. And they're doing this, almost pretty much in public now. That's what this whole thing about Epstein and about P. Diddy and all this stuff, it's all coming to the surface. And I don't mean to be on a soapbox here and ranting, but this is too doggone important. And so what's happened is that we as Americans, and indeed the rest of the world, have become anesthetized. We become, accustomed to hearing all this horrendous stuff. How controversial can things be? What kind of issue or topic is going to get you off the fence? And at this point, I'm starting to think there's nothing that's going to get Americans or the rest of the world off their fence. And it's, I don't know how to fix it. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you, that little story, because this is what motivates me. I can't sit by and let that happen. And now, because of the fact that we have become so anesthetized from all this horrendous stuff, well, it should come as no surprise that Americans and the rest of the world have been sitting on their hands while we witness a genocide, an annihilation, an extermination of human beings, regardless of what their religion is, regardless of what their culture is. Most of Palestinians now are reaching stage 5 starvation. And that means that there's no turning back. And yet we've got people like Linsey Graham. Here's Linsey Graham. I believe this was CNN. I don't know what television network this was on, but listen to what Linsey Graham said about
We
Palestine.
decided to end the war by bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weapons. That was the right decision. Give Israel the bombs they need to end the war they can't afford to lose, and work with them to minimize casualties. Well, can I say this? Why is it okay for America to drop 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end their existential threat war? Why was it okay for us to do that? I thought it was okay. To Israel, do whatever you have to do to survive as a Jewish state.
Yeah, let's just nuke them. That's what Linsey Graham says. I mean, how can anyone possibly go down that road? Well, maybe it's because he has been the victim of
bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Yeah, when you're living in the United States of Israel, you do what Israel tells you to do. Again, all you got to do, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can look this up right now. I have a little folder here with, it grows every day, of all the different members of Congress and the Senate who are being paid off, okay? Linsey Graham, you know how much money that he's received from Israel, from AIPAC? $1,580,000, over $1 million. So who's he dancing to? I think we all know. But anyway, this is going on. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm a little upset today. I mean, and you should be too. All right.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And you can get more tank by visiting our website. Go, do it now. TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page and it'll take you down to the window where you click on Get More Tank. Check out their website, all the specifications and all the information about the formula of Get More Tank is there. And it explains why and how it works. It's not a fuel additive. It's I had the word on the tip of my tongue here. It's not an additive. It's I can't remember the word. Anyway, the point is that the stuff works. When you start using Get More Tank, the first thing you'll notice is that your car or truck has got more power when you hit the gas. It'll jump out. When the light turns green, you hit that gas, whoa! You got more energy, more power. Plus, the engine runs cleaner. And after a couple of tanks, you will start to realize that you are getting much better mileage. That's right, between 15 and 20% mileage increase depending upon your make, model, year of vehicle and how you drive. But the bottom line here is if you get 20% better mileage, that means in one purchase, $20, you get 5 tablets. And if you do the math, 20% means you're going to end up with a free tank of gas with one purchase. Let's see, $20, you save a tank of gas. Do the math. It's a no-brainer, folks. If you're not using Get More Tank, what's the matter, you? Okay, so go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, and click on the Get More Tank. And by the way, like I said, you'll get 10% off if you're using the promo code REDPILL101. All right. That said, I'm going to change gears a little bit because, what's going on in Palestine right now is just horrendous. And there was a guy who was on with Tucker Carlson. I can't remember who the guy's name is. But they're basically going down the definition of genocide, and people are starting to realize that, yes, it's genocide. And Israel can no longer say that they're defending themselves. I mean, think about it. The Palestinians, they don't have an army, they don't have a navy, they don't have an air force, they don't have weapons, they don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have medical supplies, they have nothing, absolutely nothing. And meanwhile, Israel says, we're going to bring in some aid, and they bring in a bunch of trucks, that is in no way enough food to help all these people. And of course, all these people who are starving, they storm the trucks. Then there are contractors that open fire on them. How can this possibly be Israel defending itself? Anyway, here's a gentleman. This again on Tucker Carlson. I don't know who the gentleman's name was, but here's what he had to say.
When the Israelis are executing a genocide in Gaza, and we are complicitous in that genocide.
When you say it's a genocide, what do you mean?
Well, if you look at what the definition of a genocide is, right, it's where one country tries to destroy either all or a substantial portion of another group, another ethnic or religious or national group, for the purposes of basically destroying that group identity. That's what you're talking about here. That's the definition of genocide. It's laid out in the 1948 convention. I think that what the Israelis are doing fits that description. And lots of people and organizations agree with me on that point.
Yeah, that's right. So is it a genocide? Is it? I would tend to agree with it. But there are some folks out that don't want you talking about that. As a matter of fact, it's Antonio Guterres from the UN. They don't like people talking about this, okay? They call it misinformation, okay? And they've got their little plan on how to deal with misinformation. And it ain't a good one. Here it is.
Digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate to billions of people. This clear and present global threat demands clear and coordinated global action. Our policy brief on information integrity on digital platforms puts forward a framework for a concerned international response.
So they got a plan that they want to censor anybody who doesn't agree with them. There you go. So much for your democracy. Democracy, save the world for democracy. Yeah. And we're so brain dead in this world, not just here in the United States, but around the world, that we just don't understand, or we just don't want to understand what an occupying nation is. You know, I mean, Israel goes in there and they just start occupying the West Bank, and they occupy this and occupy that, and they show up at a Palestinian's home and they say, hey, guess what? You got till 5 o'clock to get out of here, and if you don't, we're going to kill you. Okay? As a matter of fact, we want you to dismantle your home, and if you don't do it, we'll come back here and dismantle it for you, and we'll send you the bill for doing it. Okay? So, do people understand what an occupying force is? Is that defending itself? Let's talk about that. Here it is.
From the first day, Israel never had a right to fire a single bullet into Gaza. They're the occupying power. Occupiers don't have self-defense rights. They have obligations. Their only obligation was to end the occupation. That was never the conversation. It was always about Israel's so-called right to self-defense. And unfortunately, even some people who are defenders of Palestinian rights didn't fundamentally grasp that notion that, Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself against a population that it's been attacking and bombarding for its entire existence. It has the obligation to end the occupation, and then you can have peace. But because we've normalized occupation, we've normalized apartheid, Israel's response, quote unquote, just seemed routine. So even someone like Bernie Sanders, progressive U.S. politician who was critical of Israel, he still constantly had to repeat the mantra, Israel has the right to defend itself against Hamas. And that's because we've been so successfully indoctrinated with this notion that this is a both sides conflict. There's parity. It's nuance. It's not. It's the simplest conflict in the world. One side is the occupying aggressor. And to resolve the conflict, that occupation, that aggression has to end.
So, I mean, it's not hard to figure out. But again, people just turn their heads and they don't want to see it. Meanwhile, like I said, most of the survivors, I mean, there have been tens of thousands, who have been killed, men, women, children, UN aid workers, journalists, and they're all being murdered. But that's because Israel's defending itself, right? But, a lot of these unfortunate souls are into the final stages of starvation.
Because the USA shares responsibility for this catastrophe, and we and future generations of Americans will have to live with that forever. The children who survived this war will be remembered as victims of a unique class of warfare. This is a man-made famine caused by weapons provided by the United States and paid for, by the way, by U.S. taxpayers. Mr. President, the starvation we're seeing today is not the unforeseen or unintended consequence of war. Let me be direct. The starvation we are witnessing today is the result of a military policy to concentrate the Palestinian population into an ever smaller slice of land.
And then they open fire on them. By the way, that was Senator Peter Welch. And kudos for Senator Welch for having the guts to be able to actually talk about this. And it's becoming more and more a topic of conversation. Let me see, what else have I got here? Pastor Chuck Baldwin, he's local for me. He's only about 15 miles away. As a matter of fact, about 20 years ago, he was actually running for president on the Constitution Party. And I was on board saying, look, again, I'm well documented on the record for having no love of either party. And I said, yeah, it's not going to hurt to have another party come out there. So I endorsed him. I don't agree with 100% of what he has to say, but you never will agree 100% with anybody who has anything to say. But anyway, he was basically on fire talking about this very subject. What did he have to say? Here he is.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, I'm sick and tired of hearing you say how many people are being killed in Ukraine, and we all know that a lot of people are being killed in Ukraine. And you keep talking about all the people that are being killed in Ukraine. I have not yet heard you once say anything about the people that are being killed in Gaza. People by the thousands are leaving evangelical churches. More than any time in our nation's history, they are sick and tired of their evangelical pastors and churches supporting genocide against the Palestinian people. They're sick of it. Their support for the bloodshed and the Holocaust, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing in Palestine by the Israelis is driving men of conscience away from the evangelical churches. And they're saying to themselves, if that's Christianity, I don't want anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there's so many churches out there, Christian Zionism, okay? I mean, first pastor that comes to mind is Pastor John Hagee. Now, back in the 90s, I remember I used to watch John Hagee, and he was railing against the New World Order. And I was fist pumping and saying, yeah, you go. And he was on fire. And I said, this is great. He's got my support. But somewhere along the line, he flipped. And now he is so behind Israel, and he just completely flipped. And I have to ask, hey, Hagee, what happened? What happened to Pastor John Hagee?
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Now, I can't say for sure one of those three didn't, are come into play, but I have to be suspicious. And I have to stop and think about all these pastors and all these churches that are standing steadfast behind Israel. Yes, Israel's our greatest ally. Oh boy, here we go again. Our greatest ally. Our greatest ally.
Our greatest ally.
Yeah, Israel's our greatest ally. A lie told often enough becomes the truth. And I have to ask, what does Israel do for the United States? Why are they our greatest ally? What is it that they have to offer to the United States? I'll let you think about that for a little bit. The United States, we send them tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars over the years. And the Israelis enjoy free education, free college, free health care. And plus, we supply them with bullets and bombs and planes and tanks. And basically, we get to cover. We're sort of like the big brother here. But, I used to say, the United States is Israel's big brother. They go up and start a fight, and then the United States gets behind them and finishes the job. But now, we're no longer the big brother. We are Israel now. And again, it's deeds and not words. But there was a podcast. I'm trying to remember the name of this. Let me see. I can't remember the name of it. But they were discussing about what's going on in Palestine. And they were spot on, absolutely spot on. And yes, a bit emotional. But how can you not be emotional when you think of all the innocent children? I mean, we're talking about little kids here. Little kids. And the Israelis say, well, we have to kill them. We have to. As a matter of fact, I forget who it was, an Israeli official says, we can never forgive the Palestinians for forcing us to kill their children. And they justify it because, well, these kids they're going to grow up and become terrorists and attack us. Well, stop and think about it. If you're just a little kid and your mom and your dad and your brothers and sisters have been murdered by the Israelis, what are you going to do? Bake them a pie and say thank you? Why don't the Israelis do something nice for the Palestinians, and maybe the Palestinians will be nice in return? But that's not what's happening. Anyway, here's a very emotional dissertation by a couple of people on podcasts in Great Britain who actually get it. Listen up.
We are monsters. We are fucking monsters. Are we just going to let this happen? Now we have in front of our very eyes every single day 2 million people trapped and being deliberately starved, and no one is doing anything. We don't even have sanctions against Israel. Has the world collectively decided that Palestinian people and babies do not matter enough? Because ultimately what it means is we have to take on America. And America is the most powerful country in the world and have the most money, and they're in bed with Israel, and it means uncomfortable aggression. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sad that we can't seem to do anything. Like, what is the point of any of us being here? What is the point in this fucking planet if we can't help those little kids?
I know.
Why? Why can't we help those little kids?
I know.
Look at them. They didn't deserve any of this.
I know.
None of them deserve any of this.
Yeah.
We're fucking monsters. I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Yeah.
But what I will say is please don't put it in the too hard basket. Please don't look away.
Please don't look away. Yeah, I said that many, many years ago. I asked that musical question, don't look away.
Go ahead and watch your show. Don't try to learn, don't try to know what's going on around you. Channel surf and watch your game a world away. It's not the same. The difference will astound you. Turn away, deny your fear, and believe it won't happen here. The news is too depressing, and the facts are too distressing. So look away, say it ain't so. Close off your mind so you won't know. Ignore the problems that need solving, and while your world's slowly dissolving, look away. And while you're lying in your bed, don't think of all the people dead who were innocent of any crime. Another world, another time. You've been convinced that you're just one. There's not a thing you can get done, and so you live inside a bubble because you don't want any trouble. But there's so much we can get done, a million multiples of one. And when you see it all around you, what we accomplish will astound you. Your destiny depends on you. You'll be surprised what you can do, but you can never visualize if you don't open up your eyes. Open your eyes. And now the time has finally come. We can't be blind or deaf or dumb. It's our responsibility to look around and think and see. I know you're frightened, yes, you're scared, but we must all soon be prepared. Your greatest challenge is before you, and your survival will depend on the fact that you will never look away. Yes, your survival will depend on the fact that you will never look away. Don't look away, don't look away, don't look away. Don't look away, don't look away, don't look away. Don't look away, don't look away, don't look away. Don't look away, don't look away, don't look away. Don't look away, don't look away, please don't look away. Please don't look away. Please don't look away, don't look away.
Don't look away, folks. Don't look away. Remember that silence is consent, and your silence speaks volumes. And if we don't start standing up, and if we don't start voicing our opinion, and if we don't start getting involved, we're going to find out the hard way that it's going to end up right in our backyard. As a matter of fact, Mel Gibson in his movie The Patriot had a very interesting point to make. Here it is.
This war will be fought not on the frontier or on some distant battlefield, but amongst us, among our homes. Our children will learn of it with their own eyes. And the innocent will die with the rest of us.
Yeah. And truer words were never spoken. There were a couple of really profound things that were in that movie. As a matter of fact, our silence, like I said, our silence is consent. And when it comes to our elected officials, are they on your side or are they on the dark side? You decide.
An elected legislature can trample a man's rights as easily as a king can. Captain Martin.
Yeah, that's right. An elected official can trample rights just like a king can. And that's exactly what's going on. And it's happening incrementally, step by step, the old boil the frog. And we're all, we're at the point where it's just about boiling, and I don't know what it's going to take. Well, yeah, I sort of do. It's going to take every single one of us to stop what we're doing, go look in the mirror, and look behind the eyes. And understand that, whatever meat suit that you're wearing, whether you're tall or short or fat or thin or white or black or blue-eyed or brown-eyed, it doesn't make any difference. You're in a meat suit. It's your soul that is important. And, like I said, we've all heard that we are all one. We are. And when injustice is levied against one person, it's levied against us all. And this is a stain on humanity that I don't know if we can ever live it down. The blood is on our hands because of our complacency and our apathy. And I'm, like I said, I love this country, but I hate the government and what this has become. And we're all being fed. On the left side, you're guzzling the blue Kool-Aid, and on the right side, you're guzzling the right Kool-Aid, the red Kool-Aid. And I can't help but think, we can expect the mainstream networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, all the biggies that have been out there for decades and decades, we can expect them to throw propaganda and horse hockey at us. But in the past decade, there's a bunch of conservative networks that have popped up, Newsmax, One American News, Real America's Voice, News Nation. And sometimes, silence, like I said, silence is consent. And a lot of them just don't want to address what's going on over there. And many of them just keep on saying, Israel's our greatest ally, Israel's our greatest ally. Charlie Kirk, will you sit down and face reality? It's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Well, I have to, in all honesty, there are some people that are coming around. Who was it? Pierce Morgan. Is that his name? Yeah. He's coming around. And, there are a bunch of personalities now that are starting to get it. They're just now starting to realize that maybe they've been on the wrong side. So hopefully it's a race against time at this point. We don't have much time left to turn this around. And it's going to be up to all the American people to stand up and contact your elected officials, not just on a federal, but on a state level, Anyway, it's going to be up to us, folks. If this is of, by, and for the people, what kind of government do you have when the people are sitting on their hands? Get off your big, fat, pimple-covered butt and get involved. Make the phone calls. All right, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do, folks. We got to pull this out of the fire. But it's up to us to do it. Can't expect your elected officials to do it. All right, enough said. I'm done for this Thursday edition. I'm glad to have your listenership. If you appreciate the broadcast, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're listening on BitChute or YouTube or Rumble, and share it. Let people know. And do business with the WTF Reports. That's how we keep the lights on. All right, God bless you all. Stay safe, stay free, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you all.